Howdy, YouTube. Me again, coming right back, like interlude and then right into the introduction. So let's get moving. First of all, you're like, well, how does this guy know what he's talking about? Well, I'll include some pictures. They'll probably be going over me right now, showing pictures of me in Ukraine. I was actually volunteering with the Ukrainian Foreign Legion, and I was there for over 6 months. Started with 13 guys. By the time I left, me and two others, and my grandmother would be so ashamed. Anyway, I digress. So, I am just going to basically tell you what I did and what happened with myself and other individuals whom I met and spoke with along the way, and thus be able to paint a pretty accurate portrait, I would say. But would you say? I don't know, unless you went there and found out yourself. So, first off, we need to talk about choices. What are the choices for you as far as going to Ukraine? Well, there's a couple. You can decide first and foremost, do you want to be involved with military type operations or do you want to be involved with humanitarian medical type of operations? Now, I'll be completely honest with you. If you don't have any skill sets whatsoever, but you are willing to be dishonest and don't have a great deal of other factors preventing you from going, then you can certainly find a way to get there and be involved. And that's really anything in life. So not just going to Ukraine. If you really want to do something, you could find a reason to do it. And so if you're just watching this video to sort of get that last push, well, the only thing I would say is whatever you do, make sure you don't put other people in danger. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that. Probably not in this video because there's like a whole lot to talk about. But we will talk about people that lie about their previous military service and tell people a lot of stories about gunfights and firefights and all the people that they killed. And then when you actually go out on combat missions with them, they freeze up and they say, oh, I don't feel good. I don't know what to do. And then they get people killed. Now that's what you need to avoid, okay? And also probably pretending to be a surgeon if you've never even dissected a cat in biology class. So now that we've laid that groundwork out, once again, choices. So you need to decide. Do you want to do humanitarian, medical, or do you want to fight? If you want to fight, which is what I went there to do, because, why did he go? Why did he go? I went to fight for Ashley Oosthuizen. She is a South African woman sentenced in 2020 at the age of 21 to a life sentence for an entrapped signature. It's crazy. So I went over there to help fight for other people's freedom in the hope and belief that they would help fight for Ashley's, and I know that they would. We'll get to the reasons why it didn't exactly pan out the way that it was planned, but nevertheless, people are good. Media, not so much. People, yeah. Okay, so let's keep it moving. You decide that you want to go there. You've decided what you want to do. You should probably try to reach out, right? Like I did reach out. Like, so you could reach out to the Georgian Legion. There might be another name in front of them, but they are another paramilitary group inside of Ukraine. There's probably dozens by now, but a lot of them actually do require and verify specific military experience. So if you don't have any of that experience, then the Georgian Legion, they'll always take you. Like, they'll take anybody. So you can always trust that you will have a place to sleep and a foolish stomach with the Georgian Legion. You might even get a rifle after the person in front of you dropped his from being wounded or killed. I am just mostly playing, but let's keep it going. So you have communicated, maybe you haven't, right? Hopefully you have, but you don't need a visa. So that's cool, because as long as Ukraine is in this war with Russia, the invaders, you are just willy-nilly able to go over there whenever you like, and you don't have to worry about getting anything done with your visa or passport. So let's talk about going there. Now, I'm a little different. I was living down in El Salvador, El Zonte, Bitcoin Beach, baby. And so I went from El Salvador to Fort Worth, right? And then from Fort Worth, Lufthansa, they canceled the flight. And didn't even say anything. There was just a sign at the gate. Had to spend the night in the airport because it was already so late. And then by the time the early flight next morning, anyway, I'm getting off topic. So flew over myself into Germany. But the point is, you probably want to go to Poland, or you could also go to another country that's directly connected to Ukraine via a landmass, right? I chose Poland. You can also choose other countries that are in connected with Ukraine via some land border route. And so that's what I did. I went to Poland. I flew into Krakow, which is, I think, the second largest city in Poland. But anyway, it didn't get all destroyed like Warsaw did in World War II. So it's way better to fly into there because it was built mostly in the 1500s. So it's got a really cool architecture, a super cool culture, beautiful people, great scenes, super cheap, super cheap. I was staying in it was built in like the 1600s. These great beam rafters like you see in the old historical movies, $50 a night on Airbnb. So that's another thing. Use Airbnb. That's probably the best. In my other channel, one of my other channels, when I talk about living internationally and starting businesses internationally, I'll tell you the best way to find long-term residences. But if you're just going to be somewhere for a short term, really Airbnb is probably your best bet, unless you just really like hotels for some reason. But I prefer Airbnb. Nevertheless, you need to go over somewhere. So I went to Krakow. Once I got to Krakow, what I did is, because, yeah, you can buy a bunch of military gear in the States or wherever country you're at before you go, but a lot of airlines and customs, they're really iffy when people try to come into their countries and cross international borders with tons of like tactical vests and body armor and stuff like that. It sort of puts up some red flags. So I just came with a bag. I had a bag, 3 laptops, because I was doing some coding. One of my other channels is going to be coding and programming. And so I was doing that stuff. So I had a bag of clothes and like a little satchel, and then my laptops and my JL speaker, boom, and that was it. That's what I went to Ukraine with. But once I was there, I started going to the military surplus stores in Krakow. Now, when I went there, when did I go there? I should have said this at the beginning of the video. I went there at the end of February last year. So I was like a month after the war started. And so when I got there and I started going to all these military surplus stores, they were sold out. Like they didn't have I actually was just believing myself there, but I don't need to, shit. But so I went around and tried to buy whatever I could. I got a backpack, I got some uniform stuffs, like a flashlight and some knives, really just whatever they had, because I'm telling you, there was hardly anything, really nothing there. So I spent 2 or 3 days in Krakow. I think it was 2 nights. 2 nights, 3 days in Krakow. Got over the jet lag. Went around, tried to get everything that I could military-wise, get all my stuff straight. And then I went on the 3rd day. You have 2 options, at least from Krakow. You can go to the train station or the bus station. Now, I don't speak any Polish. I don't speak Ukrainian. Dobry den. I don't speak Russian. Stuka. But when I was over there, it just seemed easier for me to go via the bus route, because I tried to go to the train station, but then when you get there, they're like, oh, you have to get off here and then here. And it's not like they're saying it like me. They're pointing at a map because they don't speak English and you don't speak Polish, and they're really annoyed because you're keeping up the line and they barely get paid anything anyway. So like, get the out of their face. But anyway, it was like a lot of opportunity to mess up. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go the bus route, because then I know I can just get on a bus and it's just going to take me someplace. It might take a long time, but I know that if I stay on that bus until it gets to the last stop, I'm going to make it. So that was the way I did it. You might want to do it differently. If you speak Polish, it'll be a lot easier. But nevertheless, that's what I did. So I hopped on a bus and we started going, chugging away, little engine that could, crossing over towards that border, made it to the Polish-Ukrainian border at nighttime, misty, cold, rainy, dreary, look at the morning gray. And anyway, so the gendarme, I know, I'm not sure if you can call a Polish police officer that, but anyway, the police officer, oh, I didn't even plan that. None of this is planned. Anyway, he came onto the bus and he proceeded to check our passports. I was the only American there. Yes, I stuck out, but I fit in a lot, because I'm used to living over in Southeast Asia or Latin America, where I do stick out like a sore thumb. It's obvious that I'm not a local. But when I was in Ukraine and Poland and these other places, I looked like, except the way I dressed. But anyway, I mostly looked like a local, but then of course, as soon as my mouth opened to speak, they knew clear away, that's an American. So the guy was a bit put off and he asked me some questions, but I was just like, hey, I'm here to assist humanitarian. Make sure, yes, I should have mentioned this. If you are not paying attention, pay attention now. Don't tell the people in customs that you're going to fight someplace if you're going to fight. That's not what you say, okay? You say, I'm going to, and I had 3 laptops, right? So it's like, hey, I'm a programmer, I'm a web developer, I'm going over there to make a website so that we can get some donations over for this humanitarian shit. Like, yes, 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 Slava Ukraina, then all that shit. And they were like, yeah, buddy, okay, you go through. So that's what I would recommend, you know, because if you tell them that, hey, I'm going to go fight, and then they're going to be like, ooh, can you come with us? So that's happened to me too, but that's with transporting gold and silver and shit through international airports. I will make a video about that in another channel, but not this one. So we continue on. We made it through customs. They gave me my passport back because, again, remember this, there is no restrictions. There's no need for visas or anything to go to Ukraine. There was when I went there for medical school. Yeah, before the war. So then you needed a visa, but right now you don't. So I got the passport back. They didn't even stamp that shit, and then I was right on the way to Lviv, however you wish to pronounce it. And we got there late at night, and back then they still had because it is like the first month of the war, maybe 5 weeks. Maybe it was within 5 weeks of the initial invasion. And so they had the curfew, and there was not a car on the street. The bus made it there like 5 minutes before the curfew was actually like in full effect. So we were basically the last transport that was to be seen around. Got off the bus, last stop, made it, and then proceeded to find a hostel. I think it was $4, maybe $3 for the night. Again, you'll probably want to find these things before you went there. I didn't, and then I had to actually ask some people. You know what's really cool? A lot of Ukrainians and Russians, to be honest with you, they do speak English. So I was able to go into a shop and then say, hey, like, do you guys know where I could sleep until the morning when I can go and start this process? And they politely and helpfully, especially when they knew that I was there to fight for them, yes, you will certainly be well treated. You will certainly be well treated. Welcome, Matt. But they politely and helpfully pointed me in the direction of a hostel, which I proceeded to go to and spend the night. There was like 6 other guys in there, but it was cool, no problem. Woke up the next morning, nice sunny day, walked out into the streets, and really you couldn't even tell there was a war going on at that point because there's no curfew, and it's the morning, and everyone's walking around. It's just normal day, people doing their things, and so I hit the street and started walking back, and then I was like, you know what? Oh, shit, this is a long way to the city center. Hopped into a car. Am I being too pedantic? I hope not. Got some food. I'll skip that. Good breakfast, though. And where did I go? Okay, so where did I go? I went to City Hall. That's where I went. I went to Lviv because it's like the closest big city right after you cross the border from Poland, okay? And there's a whole lot set up there because that's where a huge amount of Western resources are being funneled into the country at. So whatever you want to do, humanitarian, medical, fighting, you want to probably start in Lviv because they already have this big infrastructure that's set up. There's all these different groups and they'll be able to help you and facilitate and assist. Now, when I got there wasn't shit. There was nothing, just a bunch of roadblocks and people looking angry with AK-74s. And so I just was like, well, I think the best place for me to go would probably be City Hall, right? Because City Hall would probably know what I should do as far as just showing up here trying to fight. So that is what I did. I walked, because by then I was in the city center. And Lviv, it's really beautiful. Also a really old place, old Europe, really cool. And so just walked it, enjoyed the view, enjoyed the scenery, even though it was cold, to City Hall, surrounded by like this impromptu gate. Again, only 2 entrances now, big burly Slavic guards, AK-74s just standing there. I'm not saying that's how it's going to be now, but when I was there, that's how it was. And I just walked up and, you know, he's getting up and I'm just like up with the hand. Hello, be polite. Hello, whatever country you're from. I'm here to, now again, I was there to volunteer for the Ukrainian Foreign Legion. You would say, I'm here to, and then that person would be excited that someone came from some part of the world to help them in their fight for freedom. And so that's a really cool thing. Remember, www.freeashley.org. The whole point of all of these channels and all this great, cool, interesting, very unique content is to build an audience to facilitate the freedom of Miss Oosthuizen. So, back onto the Ukraine. When you get there with the guard, you just tell them what you want to do. When it was the case of me, They radioed inside and was like all surprised and stuff. American? Yep, I'm an American. And then the next thing, because I said the Foreign Legion, you got a little bit like military, because you have to have military experience, right? You have to have military experience. Now, again, there's really not a great system of checking, so you could just lie. But I was actually in the United States Marine Corps Infantry right out of high school, so I didn't have to lie about that. And so I said yes, and he radioed that in, and then another big guy came out of the city hall building and greeted me. Everyone was very happy, very polite, took me inside, first little room on the right, sat me down, another guy in the corner, and then they started chatting me up and calling this guy that was going to drive me to some military intake base. It's already 15 minutes. All right, I'm going to go like another 5, maybe 10 minutes. Then it's over for this first clip. So, yeah, I was in that office. He called up this guy. I was sitting there, small talk, brought me some tea and cookies, hot tea, really nice people. And then this other small Ukrainian guy got there, and he was my driver. They just sent him to drive me from City Hall to some place, and I went with him. And he took me outside. I was expecting like a taxi or some sort of administration car, some sort of old like Eastern European model. And quite surprised was I when I was taken to a Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon. So I was like, whoa, yeah, like I said, red carpets. You want to fight for us? Hop in this G-Wagon. We're going to take you up there in some style, baby. And so that's what happened. I hopped in the back of the G-Wagon and we started riding. And it was about close to an hour, good conversation, great company. What's up, Dagon? And then went to this little town, little village. I'm not going to give directions or names because there's perhaps things still going on there. I don't want to cause any undue issues, but they will know where to take you, so don't worry about it. Got there, and it was a type of administration center. That's all I'm going to say about it. And yeah, and so you went inside. I skipped some stuff. Okay, I'm going to go a little bit further, but then I'm going to stop and go back to the stuff that you need to make sure before you get to this point, okay? Because, they took me, first they gave me food. They just always want to feed you, which is really nice. You're never going to starve in Ukraine, I promise. So that's really great, but watch out because every bottle of water is probably soda water. I don't know why. I don't know what's up with those people. They're tripping on their water intake, but if it's not carbonated, they're probably not drinking it. So really, just be mindful of this, the bottle, because it's not in English. There's nothing in English. It's all in Ukrainian. But Cyrillic script is very easy to learn, and so in a very short amount of time, if you put a little effort in, you'll be able to know, Vada. It's been a while, so that might probably not be right. But you can actually then be like, oh no, that's the one Vaz has new or without bubbles. Without bubbles. That's what you say. So took me inside. Lovely English lady sat. I got dropped off in a G-Wagon after going through some checkpoints, everyone with their AKs, and they were always like, what the fuck? But there was always in Ukrainian, and then I was like, hey, in my American, and they were like, oh, okay, hey, we'll go on through. Clearly, you're not a Russian spy. So I went on through, past the checkpoints, into this administration center. They took me down, they fed me, and then some guy took me up to this other place, don't want to tell you what it is, and inside of there was like it was like an intake for foreigners. And so went inside there, and it was fucking chaos. There's like shit everywhere, boxes open, stuff all over the floor, people moving in and out, papers going off the top of piles, and they're not even going back to pick it up. It's just like, frenetic. So that's where I went into, and there was an English woman who was sitting behind a desk, and I sat down, and she asked me some perfunctory questions about, name, let me see your passport, have you been in the military, yada, yada, yada. And if you answer those questions satisfactorily, then they send you to the colonel. Was a colonel when I was there? I don't know who it'll be by now. Colonel, you have to prove sort of the military. Again, they'll ask you about your deployment. The Ukrainian Foreign Legion wants people with combat experience. Now, the only reason I was there, the only reason I have done and continue to do anything, and this is bringing it all together. I did all this stuff, and now all these channels is bringing all of these things together to start uniting the globe to bring back Ashley. And so I was just there for an interview with that colonel who wanted to know your deployment history and have you been to some place. And so I told him that I was with that I went to Bakuba, Iraq, which is where the division that I actually served with in the Marine Corps for a short amount of time, where they went before I got there. So I never went there, but my division went there. And for my proof, I did not have a DD-214. I just had my phone and then some texts from like pictures of me in boot camp that were almost 15 years old. And I was like, see, I told you I was in the Marines. And he looked and he said, oh my gosh, you look so young back then. And we had a pleasant moment. Again, I was very respectful, you know, like, I'm on point. I know right now I'm sort of being frivolous, but I was very on point, very serious. Like, yeah, I'm here. Came to do this. This is the reason I'm here to help, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, I didn't tell them anything about Ashley or being an international drug dealer or any of that. That was that aside. I'm here to help defend Ukraine against liberty and freedom. And so that's what happened. We made it in. He basically was like, okay, yeah. And so we sat down, but then he was like, do you want to do the 1 week or the 5 week refresher course? I was like, what? I got courses and shit. So, yeah. So if you haven't really done anything for a long time, or you just want to milk it out or whatever, then there's a 5 week refresher course. You just go, and I don't really know what happens because I didn't do that one, but you go somewhere and you do 5 weeks before they send you to do all the shit that I was doing. So, but again, I was like, I didn't know how long, you know, back then everyone thought Russia was just going to roll over some shit. And so I was trying to get there quick, so I can be like, Ashley, free Ashley, free Ashley. I have videos. I have all this stuff. You'll end up seeing it in every video. I'm like, free Ashley. There's guys with legs and bones sticking out. I'm like, free Ashley. So shit was crazy. But yeah, so they offer you this course 1 week or 5 weeks. So I was like, I'm going to do the 1 week because, you know, hoorah, motherfucker. And yeah, so there was 2 other guys that was with her, an English lad named Kenny and a Canadian, JT. Much love to you both. And so I started hanging out with them. I don't do accents, but there's a book that's, it's going to be flashing around the screen right now, nonfiction, everything verifiably true. And in there, I like present them as the true caricatures with all of their accent. Like Kenny was just, oh my God, he believed that the earth was flat. I'm not even making this up. Fucking Kenny. So we were chilling, and then not really 20 minutes later, some other little guy came in, 20 years old captain. I'm like, what? Like, you know, there's a war going on. You got 20-year-old captains. So this 20-year-old captain took us from where we were at another hour drive to another base that actually the week before had been hit by a missile strike that killed over 160 people, mostly foreigners, because why? SIM cards, right? You show up and you're from Indonesia and you're from the USA and you're from Guatemala and you're from fucking here and there, but no, you know, and then like they're all epicentered, right? It's like the Russians have an NSA, they have some spy agencies and shit, and they suddenly see like all of these international pings at this one location. They're like, hey, you know what this probably is? This is probably one of those international training centers we've been hearing about on CNN. Yeah. And then the other guys, for some reason, who's speaking with that kind of accent, there's a Sputnik. Oh. See, I'm not good with accents, but they hit the missile button and missiles go over. So you have to make sure that you get your SIM card changed to a Ukrainian SIM pretty much as soon as you get in the country, right? And you should also be using a VPN. We'll talk about this shit on other videos, but there's stuff you got to do, man. This is a digital age, right? I know if you don't know what's happening, you're just going to get yourself blown up and other people blown up. You're going to be doing shit except dying. So this is an intro video, a little long, almost going to wrap it up, but there's a lot of stuff that goes into this. So I know I'm just going through really quick, but it's because I want you to know a lot of stuff. So we're going to stop it there at arriving to the base that was hit with a missile strike the week before we got there. Shit was crazy. Chaos everywhere. Blown up buildings, destruction, damage, mayhem. But we're going to stop there because there's a few things I need to cover before I end this exceedingly long video. I never thought it was going to be so long. First, reading material, okay? Unless you're just like deserting from the French Foreign Legion to go join the Ukrainian Foreign Legion, right? Or some other military service, or you just got out, like maybe within 6 months or something like that, then you should probably be reviewing some soldier skills before you go out there. So I'm going to put links into this video to some SOPs, standard operating procedures. Yes, the manuals that you definitely need to read. Not all of them, some of them, all of them. I will put in the parts that you need to read, the certain appendixes and everything for the hand signals and the tactics and clearing rooms and just everything. Urban terrain operations, camouflage drones, red eye drills, all of this shit that you definitely need to know if you're planning on going over there and trying to fight somebody. Otherwise, you're just going to get fucking killed. First day you're there, first week you're there, and mama gets a bouquet and a little article in CNN. So yeah, I'm going to put that. You need to make sure you study. You need to read those and understand first aid. It's all going to be in the description, so just check there. Fitness, yeah. Hey man, like if you can't run, right? If you can't do some pull-ups, right? You know, don't go try to fight. Don't don't go try and fight if you're not in shape, okay? Because when they put you inside of that tactical vest with those level 4 body armor plates and they weigh you down with that AK-74 with them 7.62 rounds that are 20% heavier than the 5.62, when you got fucking 13 clips on you, plus your water, plus your pistol, plus your grenades, plus you got an RPG-7, plus you got your backpack on with some extra water, some man, I'm telling you, if you're not in shape, you better, that's the first thing. You need to study and get in shape before you ever try and go over and get in some fights, because otherwise you're going to get yourself you get yourself whooped. Get yourself whooped. So make sure your fitness is where it needs to be. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I think I about talked about everything else. So that's the start. That's the start. This channel is going to be all about how to become a mercenary in Ukraine, what to expect, how it works, and I will even include certain people to talk to. So I think that's enough for this video, and I hope y'all enjoy it. And remember to join us and subscribe to this very new channel and to subscribe to the other channels so that we can build a global audience to get Miss Oosthuizen out of the Thai prison that she is currently languishing in. And remember that the book, original novel, there's 2 novels. One's a fiction, one's a nonfiction. The nonfiction was shown earlier. It's not being published yet. I just finished it. But the fiction, it's actually already in pre-release, and that is dedicated to Ashley. One of the main characters is modeled after Ashley, Bioka, and also 100% of all author profits, the money that I would make, is going directly to Hearts for Ashley, the donation fund set up and controlled by Ashley's mother, who lives inside of Thailand in Surat Thani, outside of the prison, and visits Ashley once or twice every week. And so that money will go directly to them to allow for her to get her more books, more commissaries, better lawyers, more publicity, more attention. It's a global movement that's starting. We're going to make this happen. Thank you for giving me your time and attention. And you can expect one video a week, because there's like so many channels. So I'll make like a video a day, but I got to make one for each channel. So I'll see you next week for round 2.